Hey guys, welcome to the first actual video for notes. So today we are going to be talking about a lot of the geometry vocab. So this is our first section. To understand geometry, it's a lot different than algebra, just in the regard that there's way more vocabulary involved, and you need to understand a lot of the vocab because the terminology and the lessons are very sequential, so a lot of it builds off of each other. So let's just go over some of these. And I'm sure a lot of this is going to be a review that you've seen these words before. So the first thing is a point. It has no dimension and it is represented by a dot. So you could think of like a point on a coordinate grid, because that's technically the same thing. Typically how we denote a point is it's a little dot and then it has an uppercase letter next to it. And when you're talking about it, like to describe it in a sentence, you can say point A. Then we have a line. A line has one dimension, so you can think about how you've graphed lines on a coordinate grid, where if you recall, it takes at least 2 points to graph a line. So the same thing here. A line has one dimension. It is represented by a line with 2 arrowheads, but it extends without end, meaning that it goes on forever and ever on both sides. So even though it requires 2 points to make, here we have A and B, it goes on both sides forever and ever. Now a line, when you're talking about it, and I'll make it a little bit bigger here, note this right here. This is how we notate it. So this is like the symbol for it would be line AB. It's a bar with 2 arrows over top. Or notice this little squiggle right here. That's an italic lowercase l. So you say line and then it'll be a lowercase letter. So it doesn't have to be L, it could be a variety of different things. The same thing is true. This is also called, if you see this right here, line BA. So a line can be the reverse order. It can be either AB or it can be BA. Next we have a plane. A plane has 2 dimensions and it is represented by a shape that looks like a floor or a wall, but it extends without end. So the best example of this that you're familiar with is the coordinate grid. The X and Y coordinate grid is another example of a plane. You know it goes forever and ever, up and down, left and right. In order to have a plane, you have to have at least 3 points. So on this one, notice we have A, B, C. Now M is not a point on the plane. M is just a way that we can designate a name for the plane. So this is called plane M, or we can call it plane ABC. So you can name it either way, and that's technically an uppercase italic, so that M is uppercase, and then A, B, and C are actually points on the plane. Some more vocab here. We have collinear points, are points that lie on the same line. So if you break this word apart, whenever I hear the word I think of co-worker. So co-workers work together. So collinear points lie on the same line. Linear means line. Co means together. So they lie on the same line together. Coplanar points, same idea. They work together. Planar meaning plane. So they lie on the same plane together. A segment. The line segment AB, or segment, this should say BA, written as AB, consists of endpoints. Excuse me, that should not say BA. I'm thinking of something different. But it's written as AB with a bar over top. The reason it's just the single bar is because this is a line segment. It's different from a line. It has endpoints A and B and all points on line AB that are between A and B. So technically there's millions and billions and an infinite number of points in between these two endpoints. We're not going to go through and name them all, but the only ones we care about are A and B because those are the endpoints. So AB can also be called BA. The reason that a segment is different than a line is because a segment has endpoints, which means it has an ending, whereas a line goes on forever and ever. So we could actually measure the distance from A to B. You can't measure the distance of a line because it goes on forever. Now, just like with a line though, you can change the order of the letters and then you can name it, but with just a single bar over top. No arrows. Next, we have kind of a mixture of a line segment and a line, which is a ray. The ray AB, written as AB with the arrow pointing towards B, consists of the endpoint A and all points on AB that lie on the same side of A as B. Now that sounds kind of confusing, I understand. Best way to remember a ray is that one side has an endpoint and the other goes on forever and ever. And the arrow always has to follow the side that goes forever and that letter. So if you look at this example right here, this is ray AB with the arrow pointing towards B because that's the direction the arrow is going. Now this one on the other side is a little bit trickier. Notice that B is the endpoint and the arrow points towards A. So this is how I write it. This is ray BA. But this time the arrow is still going to the right, but it's going in the direction of A. So all I had to do was change the order of them. Opposite rays are two rays that share the same endpoint but go in opposite directions of the same line. So in this one, we need to designate an endpoint that two rays will share, and it's got to be the one in between, so it's going to be C as our endpoint. So the first ray is this one right here. That's going to be ray A, We're going to start with our endpoint, which is C. So CA is the ray with the arrow pointing towards A, because that's the direction that our arrow is going. And then this one right here, C is still the endpoint, but B is where the other arrow is going. So these are two opposite rays because they share the same endpoint, which is point C, but they go in the opposite direction. All right. Next one, give another name for GH. So that's line segment GH. So if you remember, the only other way to name a line segment is to just change the order. So we would just say this is HG with a bar, no arrows, because it's a line segment. Then it says name all rays with endpoint J. Which of these are opposite rays? So let's go ahead and just start picking out the rays. So J is our point right here. So there's one right here. JG, the arrow is going towards G. And then the opposite side of that, we have JH. That's the other side. And these two are opposite. Okay, and then we have, let me just change my color here. JF. Arrow's going towards F. And then the other side would be JE with the arrow going towards E. And then these are opposites because they're on the same line going in opposite directions and they share the same endpoint. So just because JF and JG have the same letter J as their endpoint, they're not going in opposite directions because they're not on the same line. So they're not opposite. Last part here is we're talking about angles. Angles consist of two different rays with the same endpoint. Angles have sides, which are the rays on the sides of the angle. So I'm sure we've all seen an angle before, but this is one side. This is another side, just like these arrows here indicate. And then the vertex is the endpoint shared by the two rays. So that's point A. That's our vertex. So the angles with sides AB and AC can be named angle BAC, so BAC, or CAB, because we can go in the opposite direction. Or you can just call it angle A, because that's the vertex. Point A is the vertex, so you can use any of those three to notate it. This is something we'll practice and practice and practice. It'll get more comfortable with naming a lot of this stuff, so don't panic too much. And the last part is angles can be classified as acute, right, obtuse, and straight, all shown below. So the first one here, this is an acute angle because it's less than 90 degrees, but it's greater than 0. So an example of this, I would say this is probably like a 35-degree angle. Bigger than 0, but still less than 90. A right angle is always 90. An obtuse angle, so this one has to be bigger than 90, but less than 180 degrees. So let's go ahead and say it's 135 degrees. So it falls in between that range. And then the last one, a straight angle, is just a flat line, and it always measures 180 degrees. Okay, so we are going to cover angles later on. This is just the very basics. So if you're having any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, or you can save them for when we meet up. Just be sure to do the follow-up problems that are attached with this assignment.